Have you ever looked at your bank account in the last days of the month and found yourself wondering, where did it all go? Maybe you work 7 days a week. Maybe your salary is quite decent. But somehow, by the end of the month, you're again counting your last pennies, cutting back on food, or asking friends for a loan just to make it to the next payday. You tell yourself, I just don't earn enough. But deep down, you know there's more to it than that. What if the problem isn't the amount of your income, but how you handle every bill that passes through your hands? This is the story of a man who was deeply in debt until an elderly shopkeeper showed him 4 simple rules of arithmetic that forever changed his attitude toward money. Watch the story to the end. In an ordinary city, where everyone rushes to work in the morning and spends their earnings in the evening, lived a 27-year-old man named Timur. He worked as a junior financial reporting specialist at a transportation company. His salary was decent, not luxurious, but quite enough to support one person. The problem wasn't his income. No matter how much Timur earned, by the 20th of each month his account was invariably nearly empty. He shared a modest apartment with a roommate. His clothes were always new, sometimes too new. His smartphone was the latest model. Weekends turned into a series of trips to cafes and restaurants. The irony was bitter. Timur worked with numbers and money every workday, helping to organize other people's finances. And his own savings slipped through his fingers like water from a leaky bucket. Colleagues often remarked, "Timur, you're a master at calculations. You probably keep everything under control with your own money, too." He joked, "Of course." But inside, he felt like an imposter. His older sister, Oksana, who lived in another city, called once a month. She taught school and earned less than her brother. Nevertheless, she had her own small apartment, some money saved, and never worried about bills. "Timur, have you started saving yet?" she'd ask. "I'll start next month, sis. Everything's too expensive right now." This next month was repeated over and over again. What Timur hadn't told anyone was his credit card debt, which had been languishing for 2 years now. Every month he made the minimum payment. Every month more interest accrued. It was like trying to empty a bathtub with the faucet running. The worst part was, he didn't even know the exact amount he owed. He was afraid to look. Sometimes at night, lying awake and staring at the ceiling, one thought circled his head like a caged bird. I earn money. Why am I always broke? What am I doing wrong? There was no answer, and that was more frightening than the debt itself. One Friday in early autumn, Timur stopped by the store for some essentials. He swiped his card at the checkout. It was rejected. He tried again. It was rejected. The cashier looked at him with bewilderment. The man in line behind him shifted impatiently. Timur's face flushed. He mumbled an apology, left his groceries on the counter, and walked out empty-handed. Standing outside in the cool evening air, he checked his phone. 3 notifications: a late credit card payment, a late charge for the phone, and a reminder from the landlord. The balance in the account was $9.60. That night, he was alone at home. His roommate was gone. The refrigerator was almost empty. He opened the cheapest package of instant noodles and ate his dinner in silence. Then my sister called. "Timur, I need to tell you something. Mom needs dental surgery. It will cost about $1,800. I'll cover half. Can you help with the rest? That's $900? His mother needed $900, and he, a man with a steady job, couldn't even afford groceries. He replied, "Let me see how I'm doing with my money, and I'll call you back." He hung up and sat motionless for a long time, and then something inside him broke, not from self-pity, but from shame. "I work in finance," he whispered. "I get paid every month. Where does it all go? I can't even help my own mother." The next morning, Saturday, Timur did something unusual. Instead of sleeping in, he went for a walk in the old neighborhood near his home. He wasn't sure why, perhaps he simply wanted to gather his thoughts. Along the way, he noticed a small stationery and bookstore he'd passed hundreds of times but never looked inside. The sign was faded, the paint peeling, but the inside was clean and tidy. An elderly man of about 75 sat behind the counter. He wore a simple shirt and reading glasses, and was writing something by hand in a thick ledger. Timur wandered along the shelves without any particular purpose. But the old man looked up and looked at him calmly and insightfully. "You seem like someone who's great at counting but terrible at managing money," he said quietly. Timur froze. "How do you know?" "What made you decide that?" The old man smiled. "Because 40 years ago, I was exactly the same. Sit down, I'll make some tea and show you something they don't teach you at any institute." Timur sat down on a wooden stool opposite the shopkeeper. The tea was hot. The shop was silent. What the old man told him next stayed with Timur for the rest of his life. The shop owner took a blank sheet of paper and drew 4 signs: plus, minus, multiplication, and division. "Young man, everything you need to know about money can be summed up in 4 steps that you learn in elementary school: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division." First, he pointed to the plus. Most people think that compounding is simply earning more. That's only half the truth. Real compounding is adding things that protect and grow your wealth. He wrote a short list. Add knowledge, understand how money really works, not just how to spend it. Add the habit of recording every dollar that comes and goes. Add a safety net, even a small one, so that the blows of fate don't break you. Add additional sources of income, even very modest ones, so you're never dependent on a single salary. He looked at Timur. "Tell me, do you keep track of your expenses?" Timur shook his head. "Do you have a safety net?" Timur looked down. "No." "So you're solving an equation knowing only half the numbers. You can't solve a problem without understanding what you're working with." The old man pointed to the minus sign. "Now subtraction. This is the most difficult operation because it requires honesty with yourself." He leaned forward and looked Timur straight in the eye. "Subtract emotional purchases, things you buy because you're sad, bored, or anxious. Subtract your spending habits to impress people who, frankly, don't care about you. Subtract every subscription, every recurring payment, every little leak that siphons money away without you even noticing." He took an old porcelain cup from the shelf. It had a thin crack in the bottom. "See this cup? Pour tea in it. It'll slowly leak. You won't notice at first, but within an hour the cup will be empty. Unnecessary spending does the same thing to your wallet. A takeout coffee here, a subscription there, a gadget you used a couple of times, small leaks add up to big losses." Timur looked at his cup and thought about his 3 streaming subscriptions running simultaneously, his constant takeout orders, his gym membership he hadn't used in 6 months, and his new phone he'd bought while the old one was still working perfectly. Little leaks every month. "How do you find these cracks?" Timur asked. "Write down everything you spent last month, every last detail. Then circle the things that actually made your life better. Cross out the rest. That's your subtraction." The old man pointed to the multiplication sign. Multiplication isn't about getting rich quick. Forget that fairy tale. Multiplication is about consistency. He sketched out a simple example on paper. If you put aside even a small amount each month and keep it where it can grow, a safe deposit, a modest investment, over time it will multiply. Not by magic, but through patience. Develop skills that increase your value as a professional. A new certification, a part-time job, a mastered craft. Each of these multiplies your income. And the most powerful multiplier is passive income. Money that works while you sleep. It all starts small, maybe a few dollars a month, but over the years, it turns into true freedom. Finally, the old man pointed to the division sign. Division is the art of assigning each dollar its purpose in advance, before it even reaches your hands. He drew 4 squares on a piece of paper: living expenses, savings, investments, and an emergency fund. When your paycheck comes in, divide it up immediately. Don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left. By then, there'll be nothing left. Distribute it first, then spend what you've got for living expenses. He added 2 more squares: teaching and helping others. Save for your own development, a course, a book, a tool that will make you better. And save at least a little to help someone else, because the money you share comes back in ways you can't measure. The old man put down his pen and looked at Timur seriously. "I've run this shop for over 40 years. I've never been fabulously rich, but I've never gone hungry either. I raised a family, I own this building, and I sleep soundly every night. Not because I made a lot of money, but because I followed these 4 rules every month without exception." He pushed a piece of paper toward Timur. "Take this. Go home." Take an honest look at your finances, possibly for the first time in your life. Apply these 4 steps. Hold out for 3 months, and then come back and tell me what's changed. Timur held the piece of paper carefully, as if it were a treasure. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "You don't know me at all." The old man smiled. "Because 40 years ago someone helped me, and I promised to pass this on." That Saturday night, Timur did something he'd been avoiding for 2 years. He sat down and listed all his debts, all his subscriptions, all his monthly expenses. The final figure shocked him. Almost a third of his salary was going on things he could easily do without. He started with subtraction, with that cracked cup. He canceled 2 of his 3 streaming subscriptions, deleted the food delivery app. He put his unused gym membership on hold and started running in the park instead. He stopped buying coffee on the way to work and started brewing it at home. The first week was tough, the second felt strange, and by the third, he barely even noticed. By the end of the month, Timur had money left over for the first time in 2 years. Not a fortune, but something. And that something felt like real proof of change. Then he took up addition and division. He opened a separate savings account and set up an automatic transfer on payday, a fixed amount, before he spent anything else. He created 4 simple categories in his notebook: life, savings, reserves, and development. Every dollar now had a purpose even before it arrived in the account. He also began tracking his expenses daily, just 5 minutes each evening, writing down what he spent and why. It was a small habit, but it changed everything. He began to notice patterns he'd previously overlooked. And little by little, he began to learn how money really works, without complicated theories, just simple rules. By the 3rd month, Timur was thinking about expanding his business. He offered bookkeeping services on weekends, freelancing. He began helping a small family-run bakery organize its records. The pay wasn't great, but it provided a second source of income, something he'd never had before. He invested part of his savings in a simple, low-risk investment account, not chasing quick profits, but simply letting the money grow slowly. By the end of 3 months, Timur's life looked almost the same from the outside, but on the inside, everything had changed. His credit card debt began to shrink for the first time in 2 years, not because he earned more, but because he'd plugged the leaks. His savings account had a small but growing balance. He now had a cushion for a month's expenses. And he transferred the money for his mother's surgery on time, without borrowing money. One Saturday, Timur stopped by the old bookshop again. The owner looked up and smiled. "You look different, lighter." Timur sat down. "I've followed your 4 rules every day for the past 3 months. I haven't gotten rich, but for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to look at my account." The old man nodded. "It's not financial success. It's financial peace of mind, and peace of mind is worth more than any number." Timur pulled out a notebook filled with 3 months of notes, plans, and small victories. "Can I ask one more question? Why do you write everything down by hand?" The old man patted the ledger. "Because when you write down every number by hand, you feel it, you respect it. Money isn't just arithmetic, it's a relationship. And relationships require attention, my friend." Timur's story isn't about getting rich. It's about finding freedom. Freedom from the worry of money disappearing to who knows where. Freedom from the shame of failing to help loved ones. Freedom from the endless cycle of spending. Here's what most people don't understand about money. The problem is rarely how much you earn. The problem is that no one teaches us the basics. In school, they teach us algebra, but not how to manage your salary. They teach us history, but not how to save for a rainy day. They teach us science, but not how to stop spending non-existent money on unnecessary things to impress people we don't even particularly like. So remember these 4 rules. Addition. Add knowledge. Add expense tracking. Add savings. Add additional income. Build a foundation. Subtraction. Eliminate emotional purchases. Eliminate wasteful habits. Fix the leaks in your cracked cup and be honest with yourself about what's draining you. Multiply. Save consistently, invest patiently, and develop your skills. Create income streams that benefit you even when you're not working. Sharing. Distribute your money before you spend it. Give each dollar a purpose and remember to allocate some for education, helping others, and the future. And here is your task, the same one that the shop owner gave Timur. Step 1. Sit down tonight and write down every single expense from last month. Every single one. Don't judge, just record. Find the cracks in your cup. Step 2. When your next paycheck arrives, split it immediately. Put your savings aside before spending $1 on anything else. Start forming a habit. Step 3. Choose one thing to quit this week. One unnecessary subscription. One habit that costs money but brings nothing in return. Eliminate it and see how you feel. You don't need to earn more to live better. You need to figure out what you already have. Timur was dealing with other people's finances and couldn't handle his own. If he could do it, you can too. You don't need an economics degree to do this. You need 4 simple rules, a notebook, and the courage to face the truth. The shopkeeper said something I want you to remember forever. Money isn't just a matter of numbers. It's a relationship. And relationships require attention. Treat your money with respect, direct it, and it will work for you instead of disappearing into thin air. The cracked cup still leaks, but now you know how to fix it.